I know I couldn't stay awake in school. Like, so like I remember I was like in second grade, and I kept falling asleep at my desk, and my teacher took my desk away from me, and she made me like stand up. And so I'm like, fuck you, being a little kid, I just went and fell asleep on the ground. And mind you, like the school system's like, oh, Sean, like he's just a bad kid. They don't realize I'm up till 3:00 in the morning. Like, you know, late. I mean, fuck, dude.
It's hard to stay up late and learn.
Dude, I remember like laying in bed. Like I remember I stopped believing in God, man. Like fucking, like I had fucking, yeah, it's crazy shit, dude. Crazy shit, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, bud.
So, man.
I'm sorry, buddy.
That's all good, dude.
We don't have to talk, man. I can just sit here with you for a minute.
Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. 6 seconds.
I can just sit here. We can just sit here.
Nah, it's all good, dude. 6 seconds. I just process it.
The video you just watched is Sean Strickland talking to Theo Von about his childhood trauma. On self-improvement, we as individuals improve our lives. We genuinely do better than we used to do. We meditate, we journal, we exercise, we talk to other people. We do all kinds of shit in the pursuit of alleviating suffering, finding meaning, finding purpose, and generally living better lives. One of the most frustrating things, frustrating for me as well, this video is as much for me as it is for you. One of the most frustrating things about getting better is that the people around you who don't grow seem to get worse. And not worse in a judgmental way where you look at them as lower, although arguably that may even happen. But what I'm talking about specifically here is when people around you aren't doing better over time, and it's difficult to watch because you know that they could. If they followed your advice, you know that it would probably work for them because it's worked for you. And if you guys are friends, you're probably quite similar in a lot of ways. But unfortunately, trying to get your friends onto self-improvement in a direct manner doesn't work. And as a matter of fact, it makes things worse for them. Because this may sound hard to believe, but your positive advice is actually a layer of judgment that goes on top of their experience. Now, if someone asks you specifically for advice, you're welcome to give it. And I can't stop you from giving advice even if someone else doesn't ask for it, which is something that I'm guilty of doing with some of my closest friends. And it's just frustrating. I wish they could just see my brain. I wish they could just literally open my head and then just look in my brain and see how things have changed for me, right? And be able to instantly just switch places for 10 seconds and experience what it's like, because that would be all that they would need to understand that there are things that they can do that will help. But unfortunately, a direct approach to this doesn't help anyone, and it actually makes it more difficult for the person that you're talking to. And the reason for that is because on some level, they don't really want help right now. A lot of people who suffer from bad mental health have a lot of grieving to do that they haven't done yet. They need to grieve and they need to feel sadness that they haven't allowed themselves to feel, or that they haven't been in a position to be able to feel. And they need to let a lot of this shit come up, right? A lot of emotions we habitually suppress and run away from. And this isn't even necessarily just a male or a female problem, right? With all the media saying, men, have so many problems with letting people in and showing other people their emotions, right? There's a very good reason for that, but it's not just male or female, right? It's like everyone kind of suffers from this. And the reason that our mental health is collectively getting worse is because distractions are getting easier and easier to access all the time. One of the most critical things for good mental health is spending time reflecting and spending time being bored. Like today, we literally call self-reflection boredom, right? Because what happens when you're bored? When you're bored, there's nothing external going on that is actually capturing your attention. And so your attention goes inwards, right? Your attention goes into your mind if there's nothing in the external environment that is piquing your interest. This is self-reflection at its core, right? Your attention going internally. This is very important if you have bad mental health, but also very scary if you're currently addicted to anything that you use to escape this void, so to say. And that's a problem. That's a really big issue, right? We have things that take us out of our experiences so readily available that we can go our entire lives pretty easily without ever experiencing the things that we need to experience, either the negative emotions and trauma that we've built up because we haven't allowed ourselves to feel all of the shit, right? When you give someone good advice, well-meaning advice that comes from a place of love, in the middle of them opening up to you about things or talking to you about things, if you aren't specifically asked by that person to give them advice, you're doing the same thing that a smartphone is doing for them, which is removing them from their own emotional experience. This does not help them. The same way that looking at your smartphone doesn't solve your problems, it just distracts you from them, and when you come back, they're actually worse most times. Giving someone good meaning advice in the moment while they are busy opening up to you about things that are difficult for them, you are taking them out of an emotional experience and into a mental experience or a mind experience, which is about thinking, about analyzing, about fixing, instead of about feeling. People need to feel their trauma. They need to feel the things that they've gone through, because that's the only way that you actually ever let go and become free of that emotion and that baggage, right? Is by feeling through it. You literally have to feel through it. That doesn't mean you have to do it right now. You can distract yourself. You're allowed to, right? Read a book, go for a run, gym, work, whatever you want to do, right? You're allowed to. You don't, that's also a key thing. You don't have to solve shit right now, right? But at some point, it would be good to get around to doing it. And people don't get around to it ever because of distractions like smartphones. And unfortunately, as well-meaning as we are when we try and give people good advice, if they didn't ask for it, and especially if they don't even seem very interested in what you're saying, what you're doing ultimately is distracting them from their emotional experience and making sure that they have more negative emotion and negative experiences built up that they are going to have to feel later on in life, right? If you want to help someone who's depressed, if you want to help the friends that you still care very much about, but that you guys are on different life paths, the best possible fucking thing that you can do for them is to sit and to listen and to ask questions. That's all. The only way that someone can change someone else's mind is by asking questions. The only thing that you can hope to do is to comfort them by allowing them to go through their emotional experience while you are there with them, and to simply ask questions that don't come from a place of judgment, even positive judgment. And when I say positive judgment, I mean as in you ask a question that, implies that you know something that they don't. And that could be true. That 100% could fucking be true, right? But the thing is, mental illness doesn't really care about reality or about facts or about whatever. Like if we look at depression, we can say like, why are people so depressed these days? Like no one is dying people are still dying in wars, but it's like right now, we have it easier than ever in so many ways, right? We have like anesthetic when you go to the dentist, so you don't have to feel the pain of your tooth getting fucking drilled out or like pulled out or some shit. Like that's fantastic, right? And we have all kinds of things like that. But one of the things that I think is key that people don't quite understand is that mental health doesn't directly equate to external circumstances or the reality of the situation. And I don't say that in a condescending way, as in anyone who's depressed, is just living in delusion. I don't think that's it at all, right? But there is a lot of truth to the good meaning advice that you're going to try and give someone. At the same time, it's not going to help unless they ask for it. It's not going to help them unless they ask for it. And you don't get to make that choice for them, right? I remember so vividly when I was super addicted to video games, if my mom mentioned even a peep about video games are bad, I would lose my shit. Like I was so heavily addicted and I was so dependent at that time on them because I believed that they gave me something, some pleasure or some comfort, right? And so if anyone tried to get in the way of that, if anyone tried to give me well-meaning advice, I would resist it as if it was the plague. But guess what? If my mom had potentially asked me questions about it, if she had asked me something like, son, are you okay? Is there a specific reason that you feel like you enjoy video games so much? Does it ever concern you, the amount of time you spend on the screen? Is it something that you truly find fulfilling? Now, these are not necessarily the best examples when I'm talking about questions, right? Because some of it does have like a tone of judgment in it. So you really do have to think about these questions before you ask them. But I would have been able to say to my mom, and this isn't even like a criticism of my mom, right? This stuff is very hard, even for people that have been on self-improvement for a long time. This is something that is difficult, at least for me. I think this is a universally difficult thing to do, but I started self-improvement around about, a couple months after graduating high school 3 years ago, right? So I've been on this shit for like almost 3 years. And this is something I still find exceedingly difficult, right? To provide as close to what I can give in unconditional love to my friends and just ask questions rather than trying to give them advice that, although is well-meaning and although would probably help if they actually implemented it, it comes from me just fundamentally not understanding that by trying to give good advice, you take someone out of a vital experience that they're going through in that very moment. So, to summarize and just to wrap up a little bit, the best thing you can do for someone who's depressed is exactly what Theo Von did in the beginning of this video. He said, we don't have to talk, man. We can just sit here for a minute. That's all you need to do. Willingly go into the shit with your friend. Sit there with them, right? And that's it. That's the most important thing you have to do. You have to listen to them and you have to not try and fix them or fix their problems, right? The only way that they will ever become a healthy and functioning or better functioning individual is if they themselves become capable of fixing their own problems. So even if you did manage to fix all of their problems for them, it wouldn't actually fix their main problem, right? Which is that they didn't know or manage to do it themselves in the first place. And that's not a criticism, right? I'm just saying that from like a fundamental standpoint, right? one of the main reasons we have a massive crisis of mental health these days is because of distraction. So don't distract people from their own emotional experiences. Don't take them out of it. Sit there with them in it and support them just by being there. That's what they need most, is just for you to be there. Not for you to say the right words, not for you to tell them that the trauma that they are busy fighting back tears about is actually all okay, because guess what? Trauma builds character. It's like, that's true, but also go fuck yourself. Like, it's not the time, bro. It's just not the time, right? It's just not the move. So giving unconditional love is very difficult, right? Because it is fundamentally through condition that we interact with the world and with other people. And it'll take practice, especially if you yourself come from a home where you feel like you didn't get unconditional love, or you didn't, have these needs fulfilled. So you feel like you have a responsibility, like you have to be the parent to the friend that you're trying to take care of to be a good person, because it mimics the relationships that you've had. But the answer is frustratingly simple. You just have to be there for them, whether it's over the phone or whether it's in person. In person, if you can manage. Be there for them. Do exactly what Theo Von did, and go and fucking meditate, you nerds.